Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to begin by praising what I thought was one of the few positive aspects of the government's treatment of health in the budget, and that was the stated intention to, in future years, fully subsidise visits to general practitioners and dispensing fees for children under the age of 13. A good initiative. It seems to have been a little rushed in its preparation and certainly stands at odds with National's previous position, which was that there were no financial barriers to primary care, but nonetheless welcome. However, Mr. Speaker, it's a bit like we've invited Bill English around to our house for our birthday. He's brought a birthday present, but while he's in the house, he's ripped off a whole lot of our stuff. Because, Mr. Speaker, that particular bauble, the free doctor's visits, the free dispensing, is there to disguise the deeper message in the budget. And that deeper message is one of actually underfunding the health sector by a very serious amount. Mr. Speaker, only a fool or a charlatan would look to CPI as being the benchmark against which health increases should be measured, but that, unfortunately, is what the government's done. Because the reality, Mr. Speaker, is that health need increases by factors that are not just about inflation. There are more of us every year. On average, we're older, and on average, our health services are needing to deal with a more complex pattern of particularly chronic conditions like cardiovascular disease or type 2 diabetes. Also, Mr. Speaker, whenever there's a new medicine approved, it typically costs more than the medicine it's replacing. A new bit of imaging kit usually costs more than the equipment it replaces. So health services funding needs to increase by substantially more than the CPI. In this year's budget, DHB provided services were short funded by almost $100 million alone on just the demographic factors. If we take into account those technology changes, DHB services and non-DHB services alike are in combination short funded by about $350 million on what is required just to be able to tread water against that pattern of increasing need. And Mr. Speaker, that's not the first year that's happened. That has actually had been the pattern of the government shortchanging health services on what it requires to be able to tread water every budget under this government. No wonder, Mr. Speaker, that in our newspapers every day we are reading about health services worn thin, worn threadbare, services being stopped, service quality being compromised, because that's the kind of situation that our DHB services and in particular our community-based services have to deal with. Because the simple fact is that while the one-off gems like these free doctor's visits, like the genuine increases to elective surgery, while those have been winners, there have been losers too. And those losers have typically been in the primary care services, in the community-based services that we all know actually need to be increased in order for this country to try and deal with the pattern of increasing disease, and particularly increasing chronic disease. The fact is, this government is robbing the services that we know are required to deal with our long-term health needs, to fund services actually mainly for political gain, for political risk management with a short-term focus. Mr. Speaker, every child in this country, every New Zealander deserves to live a good, healthy, happy life. That requires long-term investment. It needs prudent decisions made in the long-term interest of New Zealanders. That is the reverse of the way this government has approached the health budget.
I call Claudette Howitt.
Kia ora, Mr. Speaker. This is a very good budget, and it shows that New